Let's just cut to the chase. I'm tired of FNaF theories. Seriously. I guess if I'm being honest, I more so mean I'm tired of being a FNaF theorist, but I do think there's a little bit more to it than that. The long and short of it, recently I've been finding myself tired of FNaF theories. Not just making them, but furthermore, I haven't even really been watching or reading any as of recently. What I've come to accept is my interest in the lore as a whole has kind of vanished. Don't get me wrong, I still really like the franchise, with Hope 1 and 2 being the most fun I've had playing a single player game in a while. But when it comes to the story, thinking about theories and what have you, I just really don't care anymore. And in this video I think I wanted to cover various reasons why that is. And we're going to start in the place most of you least expect. Reason 1 why I've grown apathetic of FNaF lore. For about half a year now I've been posting semi-regularly on this channel. I started with my As It Was series, which I think I've accepted as my flagship series for this channel, and that's really how I got my start. Those videos were about FNaF, but I think of them more as informational videos with light theory crafting elements when needed, and if I'm being honest, I had a blast making them. It was fun to go back in the games and accumulate all of the lore details I could find, and thankfully, it seems a lot of people across platforms enjoyed and appreciated them. And then, between my sister location and pizza sim videos, I released my first theory, or my first scripted theory at least. Midnight Motorist, the video that most likely brought you into my channel, and the one where I first felt like I had truly begun to make it in the FNaF scene. So naturally, when my As It Was series was done, I pivoted over to theory videos. And every time I made one, I tried to capture the same lightning in a bottle that I did with that video. And well, just sort my videos by popularity and you should see that never came to be. Now this may not be my fault entirely, YouTube's algorithm is still nebulous to me and sometimes it's as simple as my videos aren't recommended to people, and that's all there is to say. But if you've been keeping track over time, you may have noticed something interesting about my theories. Or maybe I'm the only one who notices since I'm the one making them. But that thing is, the only times I actually feel passionate about a theory I'm making is when it's about the older things. Not just Midnight Motorist, but also things like the shadow animatronics. As an added bonus, my movie theory was something that I was also excited to make, but everything else, not so much. If anything, the topics I've covered are ones I feel like are just prominent in the community, questions that as a whole I don't care too much to answer, but the reason why will be saved for a section after this. My point here though is I've realized that I'm just not that passionate about the modern lore. Why am I taking the time to theorize about it? And I don't just mean this in the sense that I, the creator, should do things I enjoy doing. But furthermore, I feel there's a responsibility I've been neglecting as a creator, being that you, as the viewers, likely want to know that the person making an argument towards something you may believe in actually cares about the subject matter. Don't get me wrong, I keep myself informed about the state of the franchise, but raw information only takes you so far when there's no excitement, no passion fueling the engine. What I really like doing are my more informational or analytical videos like my As It Was series or my thematic analysis of Security Breach. And if you like those too, stay tuned to the end of the video for some teasers I have of what I'll be doing going forward. Speaking of which, I think another thing that may have sucked the excitement for theories out of me is I've been pushing myself too hard to keep pumping them out. Even if I may not be super excited about the topics I cover, I've always tried my best to not half-ass a video or create a theory that I know is low effort. Now combine that with the fact I had been doing them at least every other week, and that's just a recipe for disaster. Remember what I said about capturing lightning in a bottle with Midnight Motorist? Well, I guess I figured that by continually making videos, that may please the algorithm and help me reach that point again. But of course that isn't how it works, or at least it isn't how it has worked. So in conclusion, I've been making theories about topics I'm not too interested in at an incredibly fast pace, to achieve some unrealistic standard of popularity in the community. I think realizing that last part is what really pushed me to reconsider how I run this channel. If you check some early comments, you'll find that whenever someone shared their sentiment that they think I'm underrated or will soon reach the status of other theorists like John from FNaF, I usually respond with something like, "Oh, thanks, but I'm just happy with what I do have." And at the time, that was totally true. When my videos were popping off for that brief span of time, I think I went a little bit crazy and became obsessive with making things. Not because I cared about them, but because big number equals big happy. But taking a step back, I realized that isn't really in line for the values I went into this channel with. It isn't really the type of person I want to become. So long story short, the amount of content on this channel will certainly slow down, but more on that later. With that rambling aside, let's move on to topic 2 of my growing apathy for FNaF lore, the moderns. Listen, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you modern FNaF is bad. That's something future me will do in another video. Kidding, kind of. But if I'm being honest, it doesn't interest me, at least in the realm of theorycraft. Don't get me wrong, I've been digging the themes, characters, and narrative of the new stuff. But when it comes to the debated mysteries of the newer games, to put simply, I find the modern mysteries boring. Some of them just feel like theory bait, like the Nightmarion plushies or the Sticky Note Room. A DLC, a game, and 8 books and Security Breach, and we still have no confirmation on what these things were ever meant to be, if anything at all. They're just kind of things that were there and that we're seemingly just supposed to move on from now that the Pizzaplex arc seems to have been wrapped up in Help 1 and 2. The other category of mysteries in the modern lore bore me even more, because they just feel like the world's worst true-false quiz. As to say, they're not open-ended questions like the ones I mentioned before, instead a case of something being one thing or another. Is Burntrap William or the Mimic? Is Gregory a robot or not? Are the books continuous with the games or not? There really isn't any interest in these problems, as the true answer is right in front of us. It's just a matter of picking the right one. And with only 2 options, that gets really, really tiresome. If anything, most of these points come across as unintended mysteries that are now left to torment the community or whatever, and that just isn't fun to deal with. As I've shown on this channel, I have my ideas on these different topics, but do I really care if I'm right or not? Not really. If Burntrap is William, if Gregory is a robot, that's cool, but as questions to answer, they're just not that interesting. But as I just slipped in there is a third problem plaguing my interest in the series. That, of course, is the I've long been hesitant to criticize the community at large on my channel, mostly because I feel doing so comes across as tacky or virtue signally or just flat out disrespectful in some regards. But I can't deny anymore that the community right now is a nightmare to want to deal with. If you follow my Twitter, you may have noticed within the last few weeks I've stopped posting there. And no, it isn't because of like cyberbullying or genuine toxicity or anything. It's because I've reached a breaking point with FNaF fans whining every 5 seconds. Like, as I said, I don't really care about the truth of the modern mysteries. By the same token, I don't care what you think about them either. If you think Gregory isn't a robot, that's fine. If you think he is, that's cool as well. Go on Twitter, and it isn't the same story. Apparently, even some of the more popular Twitter theories have fallen into the pitfall of being hostile or condescending to people who don't agree with them on every last thing. Mainly problems like the books or Glitchtrap's true identity. Many of these people agree with me on my thoughts on these things, but their approach to opposition is exhausting and embarrassing to see. As an example, I saw a case of one person in the community I actually enjoyed seeing ideas from, who claimed that if you didn't believe that the mascot ending of Help 1 and 2 was from Glitchtrap's point of view, you were simply media illiterate and not worth discussing with. Not too long later, they changed their mind and now believe it was from the perspective of Cassie's dad. Cool. Seems nowadays, even if you're a prominent theorist, no longer do you actually have the patience with people and hear them out. Instead, you accuse them of things like media literacy or misinformation or gaslighting, and move on without considering anything they've said. It's like some weird hysteria has struck the community where everyone believes that their FNaF third eye is opened and they can see with full clarity what the story actually is, even though that is an incredibly closed mindset to have. Anyways. Added with that, whenever something goes wrong in the franchise these days, you have to act like the sky is falling and it's the end of all days for FNaF. You have to talk down to people who just don't get why you believe what you believe, and you have to act like in a fandom of toxicity you're still pure, even if you really aren't. This is how things tend to go in my comment sections as well. Early on after video releases, whether they agree with me or not, people are usually thoughtful on their critiques of the video, clearly going in with a constructive conversationalist mindset. Then once about a week has passed, people who come to watch the video tend to leave their ideas as disagree, didn't watch, or cool video, or if they actually are thoughtful, they talk to me like I'm an idiot who doesn't know what I'm talking about. Or they just totally ignore something I specifically called out in the video. I'm getting off track here. Now don't get me wrong, I'm an adult person, so someone calling me a stinky dum-dum on the internet isn't going to shatter me. But when you put something out there for the sake of discussion, and the community at large seems to make it clear they don't want to discuss anything, why try to talk things out at all? I don't know. I guess thinking about it, another reason why I've been hesitant to talk about the community like this, is it does feel like a big generalization to make. It could be that most people are like this, or it could just be the fact that the most negative people tend to be the loudest in the crowd. It's hard to tell for sure. But in regards to this negativity, I've just been thinking about a moment in the game, the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, where in a sea of positivity, the narrator begins to drown in a puddle of a few criticisms, and obsesses over them to a point where he traps himself in an eternity of emptiness. This, of course, begging the question to the player of when you need to analyze criticism and when you need to just let people disagree with you and move on. You know, not to hyperfixate on the one bad comment you get. But I think this community negativity reached its peak this past week, when Scott Cawthon commented on rumors of him confirming the book canonicity in typical Scott fashion, more so implying you can just believe what you want to believe and it doesn't really matter. And a community of people who think this is the most important thing in the world, that obviously didn't go well. I always find it a little bit degrading to tell people to go touch grass or get a life when they get super upset about something media related, like the FNaF lore in this case. I know some people process their interests differently, not everyone thinks the same way. Some people are also still children in the community, believe it or not, and as such they're likely not going to have a great judgment when it comes to how they should take a controversy like this. Or they're neurodivergent in a way that makes things like this actually super serious to them, and I don't want to come across as invalidating these experiences or talking down to anyone, especially since I myself have been in these situations in the past. But what I honestly think is, with this controversy and with the ongoing debates on the traps or the books, if you're finding yourself getting seriously angry over things like this, I do advise you to take a deep breath and try to remember the things that make you happy with this series. Sometimes problems like these are just best let go. Yes, if you're really bent on solving the lore, these are roadblocks you'll need to answer. But sometimes you just need to realize that it's okay to believe what you want to believe, just as Scott says here, and as he slipped into the FNaF movie. There isn't some grand buzzer in the sky that will ring when everyone agrees on the FNaF lore. You could be totally right and you'd never know. So everyone being on the same page doesn't matter as much as people think it does. That's kind of where I am now. Trust me, as the new games come out, I'll form thoughts on them. And if they interest me enough like Help Wanted 2 did, maybe I'll make a theory video. But by and large, I'm done being a FNaF theorist. Content on this channel will still be released every now and then, but as I implied earlier, I think I'm going to try the formats I like a little bit more. I realize the theory scene is starting to become oversaturated as it is. I'm just another Buzz Lightyear on the proverbial shelf of the FNaF community. If I seriously want to grow as a creative person, I need to try new things. Break into a different niche, one that I enjoy a little bit more. It may mean I'll be stuck at 4,000 subscribers forever, but that's never really what should have mattered to me, and at least I'll enjoy the hobby a little bit more if I'm more focused on doing things I want to do. For those interested in what I have planned next, I first want to do an analysis on whether or not the new FNaF series is actually bad or not. Then, over the course of the year, I plan to extend my As It Was series a little bit, with the As It Is series. Well, I'll do what I did for the original games, but for the newer stuff. Mixed in there, I'll be trying out new formats as well. I have some fun ideas in mind that may or may not be totally in line with this channel's niche, but that I think some people may enjoy. Things like sharing my process on learning how to make a game, or covering topics on other things I'm interested in. But until then, that's all for now. I'll see you all next time. And remember, all that matters is location, location, location.